Hi everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel, and if you're new here, you're highly welcome. If you're a returning subscriber, thank you so much. So guys, if you're interested in seeing how I transform this beautiful client, just keep on watching. I started by cleaning her face with my micellar cleansing water, with my Adventure micellar cleansing water, after which I used my fan to dry it all before going in with my moisturizer. So for moisturizer, I use my Moist Essence moisturizer. With the aid of my flat brush, I just used it to spread it all over her face and pressing everything in. After applying the moisturizer, guys, let it to sit for a while, dry it up with your fan. After drying it all, before going in with the primer. So for primer, I use the Mismetic Aqua Blue primer, which I apply all over her face except her under eyes. So after that, I still went ahead to dry it up with my fan. So for foundation, I went in with my veebeauty foundation in the shade 08. So I just used my small brush to spread it all over the face, after which I used my damn CPT beauty sponge to just blend everything in. So because of time, the day I filmed this video, I couldn't record the product, like show the product right, but that's alright. I'm just going to list every product I use in order. When I was done with my foundation, I went into contouring. And to contour her face, I used my veebeauty foundation in the shade Ebony. So when contouring, you can use a foundation which is 2 shades or 1 shade darker than your foundation, your skin tone, right? So I use that veebeauty foundation which is 2 shades darker than her skin tone, and I just applied around underneath the cheekbone, underneath the cheekbone, around the temple. So I'm blending, moving towards the direction of the temple, right, as you can see on the video. So after that, I just blend everything before going in with my blush. And for blush, I use this red shade. It's just like red. Can I say red? Reddish red, look like red and orange. Yeah, something like that. From my 3D blush palette. So I just applied around the apple of her cheek and blended towards the temple. And for concealer, I used the spotless concealer in the shade 118. So I just applied around the inner corner of her eyes. Then I blended everything using my same soap and damp beauty sponge from CPT. So I applied around the inner corner of her eyes, the bridge of her nose, the chin, the forehead, and yeah, that's it. So I just blended everything, making sure that I blend around, taking care of the lines separating the blush and the concealer. The same thing, I blended the forehead, making sure that there's no demarcation. After which I went in with my Kiss Beauty setting spray to lock in everything. Then I used my fan to dry it up. So for setting powder, I used the merak setting powder in the shade cinnamon. So I just applied around the highlighted area. I just set all the highlighted area, the under eye, the bridge of the nose, the forehead, the chin. So to set the rest of her face, I use my powder from my veebeauty powder palette, which is equivalent to her skin tone, and with the aid of my big fluffy brush, I just use it to press in everything, beginning from the chin, moving to the rest of the face. So I was just setting all the blank spaces. Please, when blending, do not forget to blend the excess powder on your brush around the neck, right? You don't want to leave the neck like that, so you have to apply powder around the neck. So ask the client to carry the head up, you just apply the powder around the neck. Yeah, that's that. And for contour, I said contouring her nose using my small fluffy angle brush. So I use my powder still from that veebeauty powder palette, which is 2 shades darker than her skin. So I just used to contour the side of her nose. And for the rest of the face, I still use that same shade of powder Like, remember, for makeup, everything wet has to go dry, right? So I still went in to contour underneath the cheekbone, around the temple, with still that same darker shade of powder from my veebeauty powder palette. So after doing that, I just used my Kiss Beauty setting spray to set everything. But I don't know why I didn't capture it. So after setting it, I used my fan to dry it up, and then I went in with my rest contour. So for the rest contour, I used my powder from my powder palette, which is one shade lighter than her skin. And to bake her face, I still use the same setting powder, which is a merak setting powder in the shade cinnamon. So when baking, I left a generous quantity under her eyes so that every moisture around the area can be absorbed and the excess eyeshadow fallout can be easily taken out. And I went straight into brows when I was done with that. So for brows, I started by laying down the hair using my brow steamer from Mickey's Signature and the brush to make sure all the hair is in place. After that, I use my setting powder. I apply my setting powder around that area to absorb any moisture. Then I use my fluffy brush to dust it off. So to outline the brows, I use my brows pomade from KR Makeup with the aid of my small angle brush to produce the outline. So I started producing the outline from the bottom. So when I was getting towards the end, I just bend a little bit downwards. So when producing the outline, always have the shape of the brows in mind so that you avoid producing larger outline. So when I was done with the bottom, I went to the top. I still repeated the same exercise. When I was getting towards the end, I just tilted downwards to link the 2 points. So after producing my outline, I just use the excess brows gel on my angle brush to just produce tiny hair-like stroke around the end of the brows, right? So I was just producing at this point. As you can see, I was just trying to produce, filling the end with tiny hair-like stroke. So when I was done with that, I now went in with my well sharpened and pointed David's pencil to produce tiny hair-like stroke to fill in the rest of the area. So to conceal the brows, as you already know, I use my small angle brush, flat angle brush, not fluffy brush, flat angle brush, and I always use my foundation from the beginning and a darker shade of foundation. When I say darker, doesn't mean that it should just be like one shade darker than one shade exactly her skin tone, or like one shade darker, right? It should not be too dark. So I use it for the beginning and the extreme end. So I use the foundation because it's very easy for me to blend, and for the rest of the section I use my lighter shade of concealer, a concealer which is like 1 to 2 shades lighter than her skin. So for these I use a spotless concealer, the one I use in highlighting. So after doing so, I just use my small fluffy brush to blend in the concealer and the foundation because you wouldn't want to leave that area looking messy. So after blending, I'll go in with my powder from my veebeauty powder palette. As you can see, the beginning I still went in with a darker shade, which is equivalent to the shade I use in concealing, right? So when I'm done with that, now the rest of the area I use a lighter shade again of powder. So remember, like I said earlier, for makeup, everything you use wet, you have to do dry. So I just use my powder and apply around that area. So because of time, I did not conceal the upper section of the brows since it was looking a little bit neat. I did not conceal it, so I went straight into applying my eyeshadow base. So for eyeshadow base, I use my Adventure concealer. After applying it on the eyelid, I just use my small fluffy brush to blend in the concealer. So I was just blending from the inner corner to the outer corner, making sure that there is no harsh line.